Hello, hello, and welcome to today's episode of the RevUp Health podcast. Today, we are talking about reading food labels. And this topic came up because in our Ask Us Anything episode, there was a lot of questions about food. And we talk to patients a lot of times about food and how to fuel your body. And we've never really done a discussion about reading a label.
Right. We always have a lot of discussion, with our patients about, protein, fiber, fat, things like carbohydrates and things of that nature. But it's really, reading the labels on the back of these products that gives you a lot of the information. Those are where the clean sources of food, you're going to find your information about clean food.
Yes. So obviously, we've talked about this before. If it doesn't have a label, that's fantastic. That means it's clean. There's
Right.
just one thing there.
There's no label on a head of lettuce you pick out of the garden. This is a true story. But what we want to get across to everybody today is that the front of the box, the front of the package is for marketing and advertisement. The back is where the information, the legal documented information is that literally lives.
Okay. And I think as a child of the 80s, I feel like those front of the labels was a really big deal with diet and nutrition, because that was the time of the fat-free craze. So if it said fat-free, that was great, and you just put it in your cart. If it said,
right. Or made with real ingredients, or naturally flavored, or made with natural products, so heart healthy, you hear a lot of that stuff. So it can be deceiving.
Yes, it can. But there was recently a recommendation by the FDA, a change in rules where companies now have to have nutritional backing to call foods healthy, or to say that this is a healthy item on the front of the package. It has to be backed up with the nutritional data on the back.
Right.
And that is a process that's changing and is to take effect in 2028. So you're still going to find some things that aren't quite
it's in the
in line with this, but it is
Absolutely.
a time of transition. So first, the front of the package.
The front of the package, the old front, the old area where they get the nice, colorful stuff that makes you feel all warm and fuzzy that you're doing the right thing for what you're eating is. So, words that a lot of the words that they use on the front of the package actually mean nothing. It's more of a marketing thing. So natural. How many times have we seen natural on the front of a package? There's no definition. There's no formal definition for natural when it comes to the FDA. I mean, it's even barely regulated. It doesn't mean it's organic, doesn't mean it's pesticide free or even minimally processed. I mean, it's quite interesting that, natural is basically when you have natural flavoring, that's another catch-all. It tells you that the product is processed, essentially.
The made with real fruit can be true, but that also includes fruit concentrates, which is okay. Like, there's really nothing wrong with that. But when you read made with real fruit, that makes you think that it's healthy and has clean ingredients, and that is just not always the case.
Or multigrain just means there's more than one grain. That's all that means. So it doesn't really tell you anything about the whole product. So
no high fructose corn syrup. Usually that means that there is some other kind of sugar in there.
Right. They just swapped it out.
Yes. And maybe sometimes that's good, but
right.
Don't let that sell you.
And plant-based isn't necessarily to mean that it's going to be good for you. That's also just kind of a marketing situation, but it really doesn't tell you how good the food is for you.
And clean, wholesome, and nutritious. Also, there really aren't any definitions on what that means.
So what words are regulated? USDA organic. That's a real certification with real standards. is what that has.
Low sodium is a regulated piece, and so that means that it's either a good source, it's high in, or reduced, depending on what is on the label there. I know oftentimes you can find condensed soups that are low sodium. Beans often come in a low sodium variety.
Right. And the word healthy. Healthy is changing definitions a little bit too, actually. So that's in the process of being transferred into a different meaning. So
right, which is where that 2028 change will be coming in. And
the old definition of healthy was written back in 1994. And so, that was built around limiting our total fat. Now, that means, that, you can have certain kinds of fruits and vegetables and whole grains, but still you have to limit your saturated fat, sodium, and sugars, added sugars to that. And the classic example of that, which were the Kind bars, the KIND Kind bars. Those were mainly nuts. They're mostly nuts. And, they were told by the FDA that they couldn't use the word healthy because the nuts had too much fat in them. So that limited what you could call healthy. So you couldn't call them healthy anymore.
And then, so under those same rules, there's plenty of sugary cereals and fat-free puddings that could legally be called healthy because they were low in fat.
Exactly. So, but anyway, so you got to really just kind of watch that and be aware of that. So, the new rule actually says just changed in December of 24, and soon it'll be in compliance. For compliance purposes, needs to be that way for February 28th. So we'll see how that changes things.
Yes. So with the new rules, salmon, nuts, olive oil can be considered healthy, and sugary cereals cannot. So, which we have an example here, your Honey Nut Cheerios that says, as part of a heart healthy diet. I'm not sure how that's going to affect this.
Yeah. That's going to be an interesting situation. Yes. So, I mean, you just kind of think about what this tells you. So for 30 years, the official government definition of the word healthy said that almonds were out and sugar cereal was in. It's not a conspiracy. This is just a rule written around one nutrient instead of around the actual food.
The whole food.
Right. And this is kind of exactly what we talk about, and the exact same mistake we talk about when in medicine, where you can take one number and make it a whole story, and you get an answer that's completely backwards.
Right. And similar to the total weight on the scale, when that doesn't always mean as much as the parts that make up that number.
Exactly.
We'll kind of keep digging in there. One thing that we do use oftentimes are tools, because if you've looked at a label recently, you know that the ingredient lists can be long. I mean, I really struggled myself even going shopping, because when you have to read a label while you're going through the supermarket, it can be exhausting. And by the time I would just give up. I know my children hated going to the grocery store with me because it took so long to read labels.
Right. And your kids are in the cart. You're wheeling them by these nice, pretty boxes of cereal and things that look really cool from the front, but they don't show you the back. They show you the front.
Yes. So there are some good apps, or there's some tools. We'll say there are tools. And one that we use quite often is an app called the Yucca app. And I'm going to get it pulled up on my phone. And, I can't really show it very good. But basically, the Yucca app, you can scan a label and it will give a score based on what the label says. Hy-Vee also, just starting this year, if you shop online at Hy-Vee, it will give you a health rating for your different foods. Mm-hmm. While you're putting it in your cart, it will give you a rating. And it's important to know that tools can be great, and you still have to use
Your own
some
judgment.
additional knowledge and judgment in how
Right.
you take that information. So the scoring formula for yucca is 60% nutritional quality, 30% based on additives, and 10% is an organic bonus. So yucca is independent, it is ad free, so they don't take any money from food companies. They're funded by subscriptions, and that is great.
That's more real and meaningful.
Yes, but there are still things to look at because we're looking at additives is weighing in there. And so it's just really important to not always rely on these things.
Yeah, they're genuinely good at flagging the ultra processed foods that we'll see through yucca, and the added sugars and sodium that gets in there. So,
and absolutely, it's a good thing to use if you're in a hurry and just trying to know like the difference between two like products that may be a little bit different. Like I want to know what's the best yogurt brand, or I want to know, whatever it is that you're looking for.
Right.
The Yucca app is good for that.
And it's really important to just really reemphasize that this is not funded by the food industry. That is a big issue. So we'll have to remember that.
Yeah. And the one thing is, and we've already talked about this, is that it does punish fat in whole foods, just like the FDA story of making foods that were high in fat look bad. That is kind of a similar thing here. So we just want to make it clear that
it has a tendency to downgrade those things like cheeses, the full fat dairies, nuts, olive oil, and fatty fish. So we kind of have to remember that. So okay, moving on.
So the other piece is those additives that Yucca looks at. It just looks at how many additives are in a food. It doesn't look at the amount of additives that are in a food. Obviously, when we're looking for clean, we want as few of these things as possible, but it is something to just be aware of. The other thing that I want to be really careful about is labeling foods as good or bad. That's just a slippery slope that we get into. So
yeah, when you try to either label it as good or bad, we don't want to. Sometimes we can slide into some unusual disordered eating, and we don't want to do that. So honesty is the best policy for this situation here.
Okay, so the second thing we wanted to talk about was the Hy-Vee score and how it's kind of a different animal, still a tool that we've got in our toolbox. And what it uses is a food health score. And we just have to remember that this tool is being used by the companies, or being used and funded by the companies who are selling you the food.
The products.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, they both score on a 100 level basis. So that kind of gives you a rating on where it falls between 0 and 100.
So ultimately, the Hy-Vee, this food health score does promote healthy fats, whole grains, protein, and fiber. It detracts for artificial colors, harmful additives, and added sugars. So those are all good things. This means that you're not going to have that trouble with almonds showing up as not being healthy.
Right. But, once again, the company selling you the food is the one handing you the score. So we have to remember that.
Yeah. And that there isn't it's not as transparent. So with Yucca, we know exactly what they're scoring on. And with this food health score, it's not as transparent, which is okay. I mean, tools are great, and we just have to use them with the background knowledge. So this is one of those things that is a really complicated food can hand you one number, and you already know exactly how that story ends because we've watched it happen over and over. Total fat said almonds were unhealthy. A normal TSH says that your thyroid is fine. A normal A1C says that your metabolism is great. And we all know that that isn't always the truth.
Right.
So
every time the number is real, and every time the conclusion can be wrong too. So it's not always the case sometimes. So these apps, they're such, we have to kind of use them as a tool, like she said. You know, you can think of them like the smoke detector. You know, okay, well, it can tell you if there's smoke going on, but you got to be the judge. You know, so
which is why we're talking about reading labels, because we want to empower people to be able to be their own judge. So we'll move to the back of the box to the ingredient list. And
a couple of rules that go along with this reading ingredients. You know, the order of the ingredients is not put there just randomly. This is not a random order. They are put there intentionally. And so usually they're listed in descending order by weight. So sometimes that's something to look at. So the first ingredient is usually the biggest part of the product. So this is the one that does most of the work. Now, you have to remember, keep in mind that if sugar is in the top 3 of those ingredients, you're holding the dessert. So I think that's kind of something to kind of keep in mind. So sugar can frequently be kind of one of the first 3 products, and it can be kind of sneaky because they may have one product with the parentheses of all the different things that are in that, so they can break it down and it doesn't look so bad.
Yeah, that is sneaky. Okay, so for instance, our Honey Nut Cheerios, whole grain oats is the first ingredient, and the second ingredient is sugar.
Right. Followed closely by cornstarch, honey, brown sugar.
Oh boy.
So
sugar,
dessert. Sugar. Yeah. That's why it's good. Everybody likes it. So, but anyway, rule number 2, the sugar wears a lot of coats, a lot of disguises in the sugar. So manufacturers can split that sugar up like we just got through reading. They can split that sugar up across several names. So no single one sugar appears to be at the top.
Yes, and anything that ends in OSE is a sugar. Sucrose, dextrose, fructose, maltose, glucose. And anything that has syrup is also a sugar. Corn syrup, brown rice syrup, tapioca syrup, malt syrup. And then anything called a juice or concentrate is also something to watch out for.
Yeah.
The health halo sugars, the ones that we think, oh, this is a little bit better. And sometimes this is. Like, you have to make a decision on what you're doing. Agave nectar, coconut sugar, honey, maple syrup, molasses, and date sugar. So I would say from our perspective, if you are eating clean and you're wanting to sweeten something up a little bit, honey or maple syrup or dates, not necessarily date sugar, but a whole date.
Right, a whole product.
Those would be the things that would be better. But when you're looking at an ingredient list and it's got these things, you just have to remember that it is still sugar.
Right. And then there's the chemistry set of sugars, which I kind of like that. The maltodextrin, dextrin, and barley malt. So these are basically things they've created to produce the sweetness.
So I think we've already covered this sugar in different weight and how that all lads in there. So I don't know that we necessarily need to.
Rule 3, the length is the signal. The shorter the list, the more you recognize it, the better.
Yes.
That's a very generalized statement, but this is a true story. If you get in there and you start reading, there are all kinds of things that you can barely pronounce. It's probably not going to be something you're going to want to take. Just put it back.
And then additives are something, this is rule number 4. The additives are worth knowing. There are additives in everything.
Natural flavors. They can disguise these things in natural flavors. And these are the emulsifiers, so there's research to suggest that these things can affect our gut lining, our microbiome. So it's kind of worth knowing that.
Yes, and it's not always something that would say definitely don't get that, but just something to be aware of.
Sure.
Artificial dyes, there's been a lot of talk about artificial dyes recently. Some people have some sensitivities to these things, so that's another additive to watch out for.
Partially hydrogenated oils, those are not very healthy either. So those are things that can raise our LDL levels.
And then, we did talk about food, processed oils.
Right. The seed oils.
Seed oils, yes. In the Ask Us Anything segment. And we'll just say it again, that it's not always that the seed oil is the villain. It is that seed oils are often found in ultra-processed foods.
High processed, caloric dense, tasty stuff.
So then the nutrition panel. So you have your ingredients list, and then you've got your nutrition panel. And the first trick out of the box is the servings and how they change. I mean, even a bottle of soda is 2 servings, not 1. A bag of chips.
It's 3 servings, which is kind of incredible.
A pint of ice cream is 4 servings.
So they can lower the number that you see by reducing the serving size. So you got to be really careful. So whatever amount that you're going to eat, then that's what you're going to have to multiply it by if it's over the single serving size.
Okay. Trick number 2 is the 0 grams rounding loophole.
Yeah. So anything less than a gram gets a 0 gram number. So it can be just under 1 gram and still be 0. So you got to be real careful about that. So it can say 0 grams of trans fat while still having a partially hydrogenated oil in it. So, but eating several servings of that is going to get you over, the 0 grams.
And I have seen sugar-free things come in this nature too, where it's sugar-free. They've used sugar alternatives, or it's just not enough sugar to really hit the 0, above the 0. That's where you have to go back to the ingredient list.
Yeah.
So the 4 lines that really matter on your nutrition label: added sugars.
That's the most useful. That's the most useful thing on the panel that we've seen.
Because that is sugar that was added additionally after
instead of something that's naturally supposed to be
exactly there. And this is one that I see most frequent. There's added sugar in pasta sauce and in ketchup. A lot of things with tomatoes, oddly, have a lot of added sugar.
Salad dressings, it's very difficult to find salad dressing that doesn't have sugar in it. So it tastes good. Makes us crave that. Second thing on that list is fiber. Average person gets 10 to 15 grams of fiber a day. And
we need 25 to 35 grams per day.
Right.
So
because that's going to blunt our glucose response. It's going to help feed our microbiome. It keeps us satisfied, satiety. It'll help lower our LDL and raise our HDL. So it's very beneficial. Our microbiome really likes the fiber.
Protein is the other thing to watch for on your food labels. We want to make sure that people are getting an adequate amount of protein. And then sodium is another thing that is often hidden. And we kind of talked about that low sodium and how to watch for those things.
It's important for those that have high blood pressure problems. They have to watch.
And then again, I'll just have you notice that the number that we're not really talking about here is the total calories. Like, there is a place for that, but this is one of those things where the total number is not as important about what makes up that total
component. Yep, exactly.
Okay.
So let's just kind of move on into what we call the 30-second label rule. So ignore the front.
Just the advertisement.
It looks great.
Don't even worry about it.
They've done a great job. Thank you, marketers. Turn that thing around, flip it over, look at the back. Read the first 3 ingredients. If there's a sweetener, you know what you're holding. Dessert. So try to put that down, unless you got to have it, but try to watch that and count those sugars. Scan that whole list. There's a lot of different disguises for different types of sugars.
But read the first 3 labels, and if one is a sweetener or refined flour, you know that probably not something you want to put in your cart.
Check the serving size, and then multiply it by what you're actually going to eat. That'll kind of give you more of an idea of what actually you're getting down.
And then look at the sugar and the fiber, and those 2 lines will be really helpful for you. So those are the quick ways. 30 seconds, look at those things, and go from there.
Get you a list of, try to get you a list of the different types of sugars that you can recognize, and just read through those real quick. It's like, you recognize it? Okay, then put it down. Or that's sugar, that's full of it. So, really what we want to point out here, because it is the same pattern that we keep coming back to over and over. When we talk to patients, when we talk to you all, it's the same pattern. Number one, it's taken out of context. It gets treated as a whole truth. But the FDA said almonds were unhealthy because of the total fat. An app on your phone will tell you olive oil is mediocre for the same reason. A normal TSH says your thyroid is fine. A normal A1C says your metabolism is fine. But every single time, majority of the time, the number is real. And every single time, the conclusion is wrong. So read the label. So be on the food patrol, the ingredient patrol. Know what's in your food. It's all about your health. So.
All right.
So I hope that we've given you some information to kind of take forward and take to the store. Remember the 30-second rule. Memorize a few things you want to look for. Kind of understand how stuff can be hidden in there. It's still okay to eat almonds. So.
And I do think that one of the great tools of today is the online shopping for your groceries. You can look at those, take the number with a grain of salt, and move on through. And then you just drive through and pick up your groceries. It's very nice.
Yeah, because I don't think there's too many people that can't walk into a store, any store for that matter, a department store or a grocery store, and walk through there and be suckered into grabbing a product because it's like, oh, that looks good, or this looks great. Do you need it, or do you have to have it? There's a difference between need and want. So that's the reason why those online grocery stores are kind of handy. So.
All right. Well, we will see you next time. Until then, have a healthy day.